All right, welcome to the 23rd edition of Before the Battle. I'm Nick Baldwin. They are Daniel Levy and Go Paolo. Daniel, how's it going?
It's going amazing, man. And Paolo, I heard you had a birthday recently, so happy birthday, my man.
Thanks, Daniel.
I guess you can't hear us. You got to refresh your page, Paolo. But Nick, it's good to be on as well. And man, we got a lot to talk about, dude.
Absolutely.
I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. It's all good.
Okay.
Thanks, happy belated birthday first off. And before we get to the MMA, you just had, I guess, a worrisome incident, a scary incident. Your dog went missing, but you found him. So just kind of quickly talk about that if you want to.
Yeah, no, stuff happens. I was at work, staying late in the office, then I get a call from my brother telling me, oh, my dog's missing. But it's a good thing he was lost in the neighborhood, so one of the neighbors found him and kept him there, and then, tried to find a way to contact us, but, it's like it. But no, we just rang through the whole neighborhood and eventually got to him. So he's back home safe, and I hope that doesn't happen again, because anyone that owns a dog knows that it's one of the most worrisome incidents if he goes missing.
Yeah, no kidding. Definitely good to hear that he was found and everything like that. We have a lot to talk about. Before we get to this weekend's UFC Fight Night card, let's quickly talk about some news that just broke literally in the past half hour or so. Tim the Dirty Bird means, well, now we know why he's called the Dirty Bird. Obviously, he was flagged for a quote-unquote potential violation by USADA. Basically, why it's called a potential violation and they just don't straight up say this guy popped for PEDs is I guess it's because the fighters have a chance to appeal once the B sample comes in. That's my understanding. Anyways, Paulo, no, you just heard the news literally a second ago because you were out looking for dogs. So what's your reaction to Tim Means popping for something by USADA?
Man, I'm disappointed. Obviously, Tim Means was one guy I really respected. I really thought he was a cool fighter. He was one of those guys who turned his life around, and he looked like a straight arrow guy now. And just to hear him pop, man, it's disappointing. I mean, it didn't even matter if he was like a straight arrow kind of guy. Every time a fighter pops, it's always a disappointing incident.
Now, Daniel, what was your reaction? What are your thoughts on the whole situation? And who do you think, and I should mention, he was supposed to fight Donald Cowboy Cerrone in the main event of UFC Fight Night Pittsburgh later this month. So, Daniel, give me your thoughts on Tim Means popping for something, most likely steroids. And who do you think fills in for him to fight the Cowboy?
Well, first of all, it sucks because we were all looking forward to that fight between Means and Cowboy. As far as what he popped for, we don't know. So, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say anything, but who's going to fill in for him? My first choice was Neil Magny, but then I remember fighting Hector Lombard. So, there's got to be someone else that can step up. Maybe George Gamebred Masvidal, or maybe give it to my boy James Vick. We'll see what Joe says. He's a genius, and I know he'll think of something good.
Or one name that actually stands out. I like the Masvidal matchup, but also Albert Tunoff, who's coming off that win over Larkin. Maybe his leg is a bit too battered still, but if not, that would be a fun matchup. Now, Paulo, if you have to pick one or two names, who should fill in for Tim Means?
Man, I don't know. I have no idea. Putting me in a spot here, there's just like a lot of guys. I was gonna go with Neil Magny too, but he's already booked. What's Rory McDonald up to? I don't know.
Honestly, McDonald Cowboy Cerrone, that would be a fun fight. I wouldn't be shocked if they go in the direction of Cerrone, Nate Diaz too, as well at welterweight this time around. There's a lot of great options, especially in the welterweight division, of course. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But I hope they, because Cerrone Means was going to be a fun fight, so I hope it's another very exciting, fan-friendly main event. With that, let's move on to this weekend's card, UFC Fight Night 82. Originally, it was UFC 196, the rematch between Fabricio Verdum and Cain Velasquez. We all know both of them got hurt, and now we have a free TV card that went from a pretty bad pay-per-view to not too bad of a free Fight Night card. So let's start out on the Fight Pass prelims with Artem Lobov taking on Alex White. We don't know a ton about either guy. Obviously, Alex White is a bit more known UFC-wise. Obviously, Artem Lobov it has a bit of hype because he trains over at SBG with Conor McGregor, was on The Ultimate Fighter, etc. But, Daniel, who do you like in this lightweight matchup?
Well, you said we don't know a ton about these guys, but I know a lot about these guys. And, with Alex White, when he first came into the UFC, I thought that he was going to be, one of the prospects that you have to watch out for because, he's a very strong guy. He's got good knockout power. But the issue with him is that when he throws, he leaves that chin up in the air. And there's one guy that can capitalize on that. It's Artem Lobov. Now, the thing with Lobov is if you look at his record, you might be like, what's this guy doing in the UFC? But there's a story behind it. I mean, this guy would be, sleeping. He'd get the call at 5 a.m. and they'd be like, hey, we need you to fight tonight at 170 pounds. And the guy's a featherweight, you know what I mean? So he would take any fight that was given to him. That's the kind of badass we're dealing with here. But now he's at his natural weight class. He's fighting a fellow striker, so it's a favorable matchup. I think that Lobov's going to go in there and knock him out, but if he loses this fight, I will not be surprised, but Lobov is my pick.
Now, Paolo, are you going to agree with Daniel here and go with Artem Lobov, the slight favorite here, or will Alex White pull it off?
Yeah, you know what? I'm actually surprised when this first came out. I think Lobov was the slight underdog. I think I saw him at even money, and I was like, oh my God, I was so disappointed my book didn't open it yet because it's like, oh man, how could Lobov be the underdog here? I mean, yeah, Alex White, he has. This guy, like Daniel said, this guy gets picked apart because he gets pretty reckless in there. So unless he's really tightened up, then he's gonna. And I think Lobov is gonna knock him out or win the decision. But pretty confident with it actually, man. But if Alex White does make those improvements and tightens up, he could win. He could win probably a decision.
I'm gonna go against you guys here. I really like Alex White here, and I'm honestly fairly confident in it. Obviously, Artem Lobov does have punching power. That's a known fact. Obviously, we weren't able to see that in his UFC debut against Ryan Hall, who, of course, basically dominated him on the ground with his jiu-jitsu skills and everything like that. Artem Lobov doesn't have a ground game, really much of a ground game whatsoever. He's a powerful puncher, but I'm not so sure that's going to win a fight, even against someone who isn't the best in themselves, Alex White. I think White is just a bit better everywhere. I really do like Alex White here, probably by decision. All right, moving on, we have a welterweight matchup against Mickey Gall and Mike Jackson. Now, of course, there's a story behind this one. Mickey Gall, if he beats Jackson, then he will go on to fight CM Punk. If Jackson wins, he won't, but I know I talked to him, and he basically said he'll try and convince the UFC to give him that Punk fight. Daniel, now here, I think we can both say we don't know too much about either guy, but from what we do know, who do you like in this welterweight matchup?
I like Mickey Gall. I mean, when you talk about Mike Jackson, obviously there's only one Michael Jackson that we talk about in a positive light, and it's not the Mike Jackson that's fighting this weekend. If you look at his record, he's 0-0 as a pro, and as an amateur, he's 0-1. So I mean, it's like, it's a complete joke. And the last time he fought as an amateur when he lost was in 2009. So this is like old school boxing where they'd handpick the opponent, and I'm qualified to say that because growing up, I watched Tyson, Holyfield, Lennox Lewis, all these guys. I recall when, they'd handpick an opponent, they'd call a guy, bring him off the bar stool and have him go get knocked out. Now, the deal with this guy is he's a member of the media, so it's kind of funny. But, yeah, Mickey Gall is going to finish him at some point, and then he's going to get the fight with CM Punk. So, yeah, I got Gall for the victory.
Now, Paolo, do you like Mickey Gall here or Mike Jackson?
You know what? I'll be honest. I don't know much about these guys. But Mickey Gall apparently is like a 5 or 6-1 favorite. So gotta go with him. Apparently he's the much better fighter. And Daniel, while I was away, Daniel probably beautifully broke it down for you guys. So gotta go with Mickey Gall here. But no, I don't know anything about these guys. Just going on the favorite based on those odds.
I like Mickey Gall here as well, but I don't think he should be as big of a favorite as he is, right around, what is he right now, Daniel? Minus 550-ish, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, when you say that, it's like, what should he be? Because the guy he's facing, like I said, his last fight was in 2009, and it was an amateur fight. So the guy's never fought pro before.
No.
He's being brought in to lose. So that's why the line is the way it is.
Well, I personally think it should be lower because Mickey Gall, even though he was handpicked by Dana White and everything like this, a 1-0 fighter against anybody should not be minus 550 or minus 600 wherever his line is at right now. He's more of a submission guy. His expertise is on the ground for sure. And Mike Jackson straight up told me and admitted that his ground game and his defensive skills on the ground needs work. He's a pretty good striker, but for that reason, I really do like Mickey Gall here by submission. I'm not winning, but I do think he gets it done inside the distance, most likely midway through the fight. But it will be an interesting matchup. I think it's going to be closer than some people think. Moving on, we have a very, very interesting flyweight matchup between Ray, the Taz Mexican Devil Bourque, and Justin Tank Scoggins. Paolo, who do you like, Ray Bourque or Justin Scoggins?
You know, it's interesting that they're being matched up because I thought that these were two guys that the UFC could have built up and not have one of them lose right now. But, you know, I guess Justin Scoggins to Ray Bourque here because I think this is sort of a bad matchup for Scoggins. I mean, the thing about Scoggins is he's one of these tall, lanky guys that gets taken down quite a bit. And once you're on the ground with Ray Bourque, it's game over, man. So I think if he can't keep the fight standing, which I don't think he will for 3 rounds, Ray Bourque's just going to dominate him on the ground and probably submit him at some point.
Now, Daniel, do you like Ray Bourque here or Justin Scoggins?
It's an interesting fight because obviously we know with Justin Scoggins, he's got that sport karate background. This guy's been competing ever since he was a kid. And with Ray Bourque, he's one of the scrambliest dudes in all of the UFC. When you hit the mat with this guy, you know, he's going to be transitioning to your back. He's going to be looking to choke you out. But the question here is, can Ray Bourque take Justin Scoggins down? Because, you know, Ray Bourque doesn't have the best stand-up. And when you need to take someone down in the UFC, you got to set up your takedowns. So he's going to have to strike a little bit to set up his takedowns, and that's where it's going to get interesting. Now, I do think eventually he will get Scoggins down to the ground and, you know, win a decision, but, man, it's just so intriguing to me because, like I said, you know, Ray Bourque, he hasn't shown off his stand-up, and, you know, I talked to him on Half the Battle, and he said he really wants to show his stand-up. He wants to show that he can throw hands, but when it comes down to fighting, his instincts kick in, and that's to take someone down to the ground. So that's what I think he'll do here, but I am not counting out the live dog and Justin Scoggins one bit.
Yeah, I 100% agree with Daniel here. I really like Ray Bourque here. But, like Daniel mentioned, it is a lot closer than some people think. I don't think Ray Bourque finishes this fight. I like him to win a clear-cut decision here, but Justin Scoggins is a rising star himself, a rising prospect. So I really do think Ray Bourque will have a tough time with him, but ultimately I do like Bourque here by decision. Moving on, we have a heavyweight matchup between Derrick Lewis and UFC newcomer Damian Grabowski. Daniel, do you like the Black Beast or the Polish Pitbull?
It's tough to say because we haven't seen the Polish Pitbull make his UFC debut yet, and with a lot of these guys, you know, you think they're going to be better than they are. Like, for example, Orokin. He comes into the UFC. He's beat all these UFC vets. He's got this really padded record. You think, hey, you know, you watch his highlight reel. You think he's going to go out there and crush some people. And that might be the case here with Damian. So it's really tough to say. I'm going to go with the Black Beast just because he's the more experienced guy. You know, he has been in the UFC. He's gone, you know, to the 3rd round before. But if he gets taken out early in emphatic fashion, I'm not going to be the least bit surprised because one doesn't simply go 20-2 in pro MMA, and that's exactly the record that Grabowski is bringing into the octagon with him. So we'll just have to see what happens here.
I mean, wouldn't you say Grabowski has more experience? Because I believe he has 5 more fights if the UFC site is correct.
Well, Nick, I said he has more octagon experience.
Okay.
And that's the truth.
That is fair enough. Paulo, do you like Derrick Lewis here or Damian Grabowski?
I like Damian Grabowski here. I might have gotten an itchy trigger finger and bet him too soon, but I favored him because I thought he was from the tape study I've been doing about him. Is he's just better everywhere. This guy's taken on some freaking killers, and he's got a pretty decent chin. But
What happened, man?
Derrick Lewis, if it's anything about Derrick Power, and I mean, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, man.
Kind of.
Oh, yeah, because it's a bit. Anyway, let's keep it short. I like Grabowski here. I think he's Hail Mary in the fight.
To recap, Paolo likes Damian Grabowski here, and I do as well. I think if he can survive the storm, weather the storm of Derrick the Black Beast Lewis, I think he wins this fight all day. I really think he'll be able to take him down, and submit him, to be quite honest. But I will say he has been out of action for, I believe, over a year, which is a bit worrisome to me. Just because we don't know how it'll look, and he's never fought UFC competition, like Daniel pointed out. I do like Grabowski here by submission, but with Derrick Lewis and his power and everything like that, he can definitely win this fight. Moving on, we have a light heavyweight matchup between Misha Serkinov and Alex Nicholson. Daniel, do you like Misha Serkinov here, or the big underdog and UFC newcomer Alex Nicholson?
You know, I like Misha here, but I think he's so overhyped. It's absolutely ridiculous. You know, people are talking like this guy's going to be the next, 205-pound contender, which I completely disagree with. You know, my buddy Tex Johnson tapped him out in under 2 minutes and a half. So. But here's the thing, Alex Nicholson, he's not the best opponent either. So it's like this is probably going to be a showcase fight for Misha Serkinov. So yeah, you can pick him to win here, but don't bet it at the outrageous price.
And Paul, do you like Misha Serkinov here or Alex Nicholson for the major upset?
No, I like Serkinov here too, but yeah, I think what's his line right now? Minus 900 or whatever crazy line it is. 1050? Dude, that's crazy. You don't bet that. Come on, like seriously. Unless you want to live dangerously, I guess. No, because the thing about Nicholson, this guy's so green that you can't really bank on him. So I mean, but he's still a pretty big dude with some knockout powers, and those guys, like, you can never totally count them out. But Serkinov's the better fighter all around, so Serkinov should get this job done in the distance. But still, that's not a bettable line.
Yeah, I like Misha Serkinov here as well, but. Like you guys mentioned, don't bet the fight. Don't bet Misha Serkinov. He's not the next John Jones. He's not even, like, say, top 5. And he's not even close at this point. Alex Nicholson, I don't really know much about him, but Misha Serkinov should win this fight. But it's insane that he is as highly touted and this big of a favorite as he is, minus 1050 or whatever. It's insane. I like him here, though. But Nicholson can pull it off because I'm not ridiculously high on Serkinov either. So I like Serkinov here, probably inside the distance, but I can't say I'd be shocked if Alex Nicholson, the Spartan, pulls off the upset. Moving on,
Nick, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yo.
So there's two Alex the Spartans on this card. Alex the Spartan White and Alex the Spartan Nicholson, huh?
And there is the Polish Pitbull and the Pitbull, Diego Rivas. And that's number 49 and number 50 for the Pitbulls.
There you go.
Yeah, moving on, though. Joseph Benavidez taking on Zach Makovsky. Pivotal flyweight matchup. Daniel, who do you like?
Every single time I think that Joseph Benavidez is getting old and, it's time to fade Joe B. And, he's past his prime, he always wins. I tried it with Ali Bagotinov. I tried it with Dustin Ortiz. You just can't fade this guy unless he's fighting Dominic Cruz or Demetrius Johnson. So with that said, I got Joe B. Now watch this be the first time where he loses to someone not named Cruz or DJ. But, I think he's got enough for Makovsky. Now here's the thing. A lot of people talk about how Makovsky looked really damn good against John Dodson. But let me give you a different perspective on that. we can all agree that Dodson looked absolutely terrible that fight, and Makovsky still lost. So it's like, I'm just not impressed with Makovsky whatsoever. I mean, he's supposed to be this D1 wrestler. He goes in there against Formiga and gets backpacked, which we all know Formiga is an incredible black belt. But, I mean, if you're a D1 wrestler, you better be neutralizing that shit, man. And he didn't neutralize it. I have no faith in Makovsky's skills in this fight, even though he is at a very good price. And some smart people I know are betting on him. But I got Joe B here, man.
Paolo, do you like Joseph Benavidez here, the fairly big favorite here, or will Zach Makovsky, the fun size, be able to pull off the upset?
I like Joe B here, man. I think he's just better in most aspects. I mean, how's Makovsky going to beat him? Is he going to outpoint him? I think, Benavidez, like, come on. I mean, this guy usually finishes people, but he hasn't been finishing people as of late. And people are like, oh, he's past his prime. Maybe he's not motivated anymore because he's sort of stuck in this limbo where he can't get a title shot, but he keeps beating people anyway. So who knows? I mean, I still favor Joseph Benavidez, even if he's past his prime. Benavidez over here, I think I just think he's better everywhere. If the fight's gonna stay standing, he's gonna outstrike him, and he's really good on the ground too. So I don't think Makovsky's gonna like school him on the ground. So Joseph Benavidez, man, and let's go in the distance here.
Interesting. I like Joe B here as well. I think it's going to be another fairly clear win for Joseph Benavidez, similar to his past outings. A clear-cut decision, but still competitive. I like Paolo, like you mentioned, I think Benavidez is better in every aspect, pretty much every area. His move to Team Elevation, he's just visiting, but he did do his entire camp, or most of his camp, at Team Elevation, which is very interesting. I really think that could be a good move for him. I know Team Alpha Male is declining very fast. Even though they're going like fighters like Van Zandt, Mendes, and so on, they're going up against top competition. They're still losing. It's not looking. The future isn't too bright, to say the least, for Team Alpha Male. So I do think him doing his camp at Team Elevation is pretty interesting. Could benefit him. Either way, though, Team Alpha Male or Elevation, I like Benavidez here to win a 3-round decision. All right, moving on, Vince St. Preux and Rafael Cavalcante are set to scrap in a light heavyweight matchup. Paulo, do you like OSP here or Fei Zhao?
I really like OSP here, man. Now, here's the thing about Fei Zhao. If this Fei Zhao in Strikeforce, who was knocking out Yoel Romero, was knocking a bunch of guys out with flying knees, spinning back fists and stuff, and had some crazy jiu-jitsu, I would think that the line would be closer, and I might even take him at a dog price. But he hasn't really looked good as of late, man. I mean, Thiago Silva, who, as we know, is like a depleted Thiago Silva. I can't remember the last time I've been impressed with Thiago Silva. Knocked him out when he was losing the fight. I mean, the thing about Fei Zhao is this guy has been like a known juicer, so maybe he's like one of those fighters who's not juicing anymore and is not as good as he once was. And the thing about OSP is this guy's really tough and he's got knockout power, and the way to beat OSP is to make him quit, and I don't think Fei Zhao is going to able to make him quit here. So I just don't see how Fei Zhao wins this outside of, like, you know, like I said earlier, like a Hail Mary, which is still possible, but you got to go with OSP here.
Daniel, do you like Vince St. Preux here or Rafael Fei Zhao Cavalcante?
You know, OSP is my boy. I like this guy a lot, and I'll tell you why, man. It's because, you know, he might not be the prettiest fighter. You know, he's kind of ugly when he's out there, but he finds a way to win. That's why I like OSP a lot. The only times he loses are against top 5 guys. And the thing with Fei Zhao is he once was a top 5 guy, but those days are long gone, my friend. You know, back when he fought King Mo, back when he fought Yoel, back when he fought Dan Hendo, that Fei Zhao was an entirely different Fei Zhao than we see today. I mean, like Paulo mentioned, the flying knees, the spinning back fist, just the aggression that he brought to the table. He was one of those scary Brazilians that you had to look out for, but ever since he came to the UFC, you know, his physique's looking a little different. I don't think he's as motivated as he was. It seems like he doesn't really want it anymore. Maybe he's taken on a little bit of a coaching role at his gym. And that's not going to bode well when you're fighting OSP. The interesting thing about this matchup is Fei Zhao, you know, when you look at it on paper, he does have better stand-up than OSP, but that doesn't really matter because OSP, he's got that long-ass reach. If you try to close the distance on him, he'll clock you with something coming in. And that's what I thought that he was going to do against Glover. But, obviously Glover, he's a consummate professional. He had a very good game plan. But Pat Cummins and Shogun, man, they tried to rush in on OSP. They got caught hard. And then you got guys like Nikita Krylov who got choked out with a Von Flue choke. So you never know what OSP is going to bring to the table. But one thing I do know is he's going to finish this fight inside the distance.
Yeah, to complete the hat trick, I like Open St. Preux here as well. And definitely inside the distance. So one of my most confident picks on this card. This card is filled with fairly close fights, but I really don't look at this one as one of them. I really like OSP here. I'm pretty high on OSP, but this is even more just a fade on Fei Zhao, who, of course, like both of you have mentioned, just really hasn't looked the same since the Strikeforce days and since drug testing has become a bit more, just more of a thing, honestly. Of course, I think Open St. Preux kind of wins however he wants. Most likely he's to stand and fight for a little bit. I think St. Preux wins this fight by TKO midway through the fight. I think he drags it on for a little bit and then just kind of wraps it up. I think it's not going to be pretty, but like Daniel mentioned, but I do think OSP gets it done inside the distance. All right, moving on, the co-main event of the evening could either be a first-round flash knockout or one of the most boring fights of all time. Roy Big Country Nelson taking on Jared Rochelle. Paulo, who do you like in this heavyweight matchup?
I would have been so confident to just say that Roy Nelson's going to come in there and knock out Jared Rochelle because, Jared Rochelle hasn't shown to have the best chin, and if he's going to win, he's likely going to try to, as they say, dry hump Roy Nelson into a decision because he's one of those rare heavyweights who doesn't knock people out for some reason. And I'm trying to remember has been dry humped, and I honestly can't think of one. And the thing about Roy Nelson is this guy, he's on I think he's lost, but I mean the guys he loses to are like former champions or championship caliber fighters. And I mean, is Jared Rochelle one of those guys? I'm not convinced he is, man. So I think at some point Roy Nelson's gonna catch him and knock him out and get a much needed victory.
Now, Daniel, do you agree with what Paulo said? Do you think Roy Nelson gets the finish win, or will Rochelle be able to win a grinding decision?
Here's the thing with this fight, Nick. Either the fans are going to sleep, or Jared Rochelle is going to sleep.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
I'm gonna pick the latter, man. I think Jared Rochelle's getting knocked out cold, and I will tell you why right here, right now, and before the battle. If you go back and you watch Big Country, his last fight against Josh Barnett, one doesn't simply take down Josh Barnett 3 times in an MMA fight, and that's exactly what he did. We were all saying how, if Big Country's going to win, it's going to be via knockout. If Barnett wins, it's going to be via grappling. And then it was Barnett that had the edge standing, and, Big Country showed off his grappling. I think that grappling he showed off is going to pay dividends here because when Jared Rochelle can't get that takedown, he's gonna start to look for that door. Now, it's funny. In that last fight between Struve and Rochelle, this is how I predicted it. I said the first round, Rochelle's going to grind on Struve, and the second round, he's going to look for the door. I was off by 1 round because what ended up happening was the first 2 rounds, Rochelle grinded him, and then in the 3rd round, he looked for the door. So I was off by 1 round, but in this case, and this fight specifically, it's not going to be a question of looking for the door because he's going to be looking up at the lights.
I don't think that's going to be the case, to be honest. I like Jared Rochelle here to grind out a decision. Roy Nelson, like Paul mentioned, has only lost the top competition, but I really don't think that matters. I really think he's done. He's 39 years old. It's probably time to call it quits or close to it anyways. Of course, at one point he was a good heavyweight fighter, and he still is. He still has the power. And as everyone says, power is the last thing to go. When you're a declining fighter, you still have power. So he can definitely use it. He can definitely knock out Jared Rochelle. We have seen Rochelle getting knocked out in the past, of course, to Alexei Oleinik in his last loss. I believe that's his only UFC loss, and it's funny enough how it's by first round knockout. And he's going up against Roy Nelson. But despite that, I do like Jared Rochelle here. I think he's getting better each and every day. Whether that means his wrestling is just getting better, or maybe he's actually working on the striking, I don't know. I wasn't at his gym training with him, but I do like Jared Rochelle here to grind out a very, very lackluster decision. And as Daniel mentioned, it's either the fans going to sleep or Jared Rochelle. And I hate to say it, but I think the fans are going to sleep. Main event time, Johnny Hendricks versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson in a pivotal welterweight matchup. Paolo, are you going with Big Rig here or the Wonderboy?
This is a really tough fight, actually. If this was 3 rounds, I would have picked Johnny Hendricks a little bit more confidently. But now that it's 5 rounds, and we know that Johnny Hendricks has had a really tough time making weight and going 5 rounds in his fights. So, I mean, I think what's going to happen is, and the thing is about this is Johnny Hendricks is, even though he has a tough time making weight, he's a pretty small welterweight, man. I mean, Reed Kuhn did a statistic before where he showed like how big the welterweights were, and Johnny Hendricks was like on the tail end of that. He was like the size of like a lightweight, so he's gonna have a reach and height disadvantage. But Wonderboy is, this guy's been improving on his wrestling. A lot of people like to bring up the fact that Matt Brown, of all people, out wrestled him and grinded him down, and so they're like, oh, Johnny Hendricks is a better wrestler than Matt Brown, so he's gonna wrestle. I mean, that was so long ago, man. And as you know, Stephen Thompson has been working with Chris Weidman. He defended Ellenberger's takedowns pretty well. So yeah, I think Wonderboy has a really good chance of keeping the fight at his range, and if he keeps the fight at his range, he could definitely win this fight. But it's hard to pick against Hendricks here, especially if he starts closing the distance and, I don't know, I guess wall installing or just like grinding down Stephen Thompson. But I'm gonna go with the underdog here. I think Thompson can keep the fight at this range and frustrate Hendricks and probably win a decision at 48-47 or something like that.
Now, Daniel, do you like Johnny Hendricks, the former UFC welterweight champion here, or will Stephen Wonderboy Thompson pick up the biggest win of his career?
Well, Paolo brought up Matt Brown, who fought both guys, and, interestingly enough, I did speak to Matt Brown on Half the Battle. I asked him, hey, man, what do you think about this fight? And he thinks that Big Rig is a very bad matchup for Wonderboy Thompson. And not that I necessarily disagree with him, but, we all know that fighters are fighters. And people that pick fights are people that pick fights. So I'm not going to tell Matt Brown how to fight in his fight, but maybe he shouldn't tell me how to pick a fight, right? So with that being said, I got Wonderboy here. I'll tell you why. Obviously Johnny Big Rig Hendricks, I mean, the guy's such a winner. He beat GSP. We all know he beat GSP. Fucking corrupt-ass judges. But anyways, he beat GSP. He beat Robbie Lawler. He beat Carlos Condit. He beat Matt Brown. But there comes a point in every fighter's career where they lose to guys that they're supposed to beat and that they don't show up like they used to. And, all this talk about the new nutritionist getting him on point, I don't buy it for a second, dude, because, I'm friends with his nutritionist on Facebook. His nutritionist didn't fly out to Texas until last week. So, I mean, it's not like he's been there the whole camp monitoring him. They've been in touch over the phone, and it's basically Johnny's word being like, hey, man, I'm not going to McDonald's after practice. I'm eating what you're telling me to eat. So, I don't buy the whole, oh, he was 173 pounds yesterday bullshit. He was not fucking 173 pounds yesterday, okay, guys? But we'll see the truth when they go on the scales. But as far as the fight's concerned, I do think that Wonderboy is going to find a way to win. Now, at the current price, I don't blame you for playing Hendricks, but at the price I got it at, plus 220, of course I took that shot on Wonderboy. So I'm pulling for him to knock out Johnny.
I mean, it does seem a bit strange that he's only 3 pounds over the limit, 4 days, 5 days out. Why do you, what specifically is it that you don't agree with that? Why do you think he was heavier than 73?
Oh, why do I think that he's not 173 pounds a couple days before the fight? Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah, why is that bullshit? I'm just curious.
I mean, if you look at the guy's physique, first of all, on fight night, he's about 190 to 200 pounds. I have a hard time believing that he's around, the weigh-in weight a couple days before the fight. It's just that's not how it works with these guys. They don't walk around at what they fight at, unless we're talking about a guy like Frankie Edgar. Frankie, okay, he probably walks around 150 pounds. He's probably 149 a day or two before the fight. That makes sense. Big Rig, dude, I mean, have you seen the pictures of him where he looks completely shredded? First of all, let me bring that up, Nick. I'm really glad you asked me, because in his last fight, which never happened, might I add, against Tyron Woodley, a week before the fight, he's posting pictures. He's shredded out of his mind. I'm 175 pounds, best weight cut of my life. This and that. Then weigh-ins come through, and he can't even show up to the scale. So I don't buy that bullshit one bit. And I mean, we'll see what's up on Friday, right?
Maybe on Friday he won't be at the weigh-ins. Maybe he'll be at the hospital again. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But I hope he shows up. I really do. I want to see this fight, but that's definitely a good point. I don't personally recall seeing those photos, but I'll definitely take your word for it. I mean, it's tough to say. You can't believe everything. I personally do think he's having a great weight cut. I do think he's going to show up on weight. I think he's going to be in shape for that matter. But like you mentioned, I guess you can't be 100% sure of that. Matchup-wise, I agree with what Matt Brown said on Half Battle. I really think this is a good matchup for Johnny Hendricks. I really think he's going to be able to do what he did to Matt Brown to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, to be quite honest. I really like Johnny Hendricks here to grind out, not going to say a boring decision, but maybe just not too exciting of a fight. I mean, Johnny Hendricks was knocking people out, so this could be a stand-up war. We could see a really fun fight of the night, whatever. I don't think it's going to happen. Like, why, if Hendricks has the wrestling advantage, why would he choose to stand with such a dynamic and unorthodox striker as Stephen Wonderboy Thompson? I think first round maybe it'll be a bit of feeling out process on the feet, but I think come second, third round, it's going to be a grinding affair from the former champion. We're going to see another dominant and impressive win for Johnny Hendricks here. I really think that's the case. I wouldn't mind seeing Hendricks stand the entire fight. I would really love to see that, obviously. Better than a wrestling grinding affair. But if I have to pick, I do think Hendricks grinds this one out. I like him by clear-cut unanimous decision. All right, that is the card. Daniel, if you are ready, who are your 5 fighters on your counter team?
Well, Nick, I was born ready, and the 5 fighters on my counter-move team are Ovin St. Preux, Wonderboy, Sean Spencer, because he's going to knock out Mike Pyle. And just let me add that Sean Spencer is my guy when it comes to fading these aging vets. When he fought Paulo Tiago, we were all over that. So here's another opportunity. Get Sean Spencer to beat the 40-year-old Mike Pyle. Then we got my boy Noah Lahad. I mean, this guy, he's a hero outside of the octagon. This is a guy that kills terrorists. So, I mean, fighting in the octagon against Diego Rivas, that's no big deal. And then I got Artem Lobov, because if he's going to win the fight, he's going to win via knockout. So that gives you a lot of points. That is my counter-move team, Nick.
Now, Paolo, who are your 5 fighters on your counter-move team?
Oh, me? Okay, you cut out there for a bit. Yeah. No, so I'm actually making changes right now. So I got Artem Lobov, because, I think he's going to knock out Alex White. We got Ovin St. Preux. He's going to knock out Fei Zhao. Sean Spencer, as Daniel said, he's going to touch Mike Pyle. And Mike Pyle doesn't have the best chin, and he's probably going to go down. Joseph Benavidez to win any way he wants to. And Wonderboy to pull off the upset.
Interesting. Now, my counter team, I might change this around before fight night, but as of now, I have Ovin St. Preux to TKO Rafael Fei Zhao. I got Jared Rochelle to grind out Roy Nelson. And even though I think he's going to dominate Roy Nelson, I'm trying to get him off my team just because even a 30-27 grinding win won't pick up too many points. I like Alex White here to dominate Artem Lobov. I got Dean Grabowski to submit the Black Beast, and I got Mickey Gall to submit Mike Jackson. All right, Daniel, Paulo, appreciate you guys coming on. As always, Daniel, let our listeners know where they can find you on social media. and where they can find your bets and your podcast and everything like that.
At Best Fight Picks on Twitter, bestfightpicks.com for the bets, and Half the Battle is the podcast. I mean, it's on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube. All I do is interview the most exciting fighters in the game. I mean, is there much more to ask for? Got Matt Brown on this week, had Darren Till last week, got Paul Felder coming up. I mean, like I've said many times, when you listen to my show, you're not going to listen to some. Jared Rochelle is not going to be on my show anytime soon unless he starts knocking people out. So that's why I get guys like Matt Brown. I want the guys that you guys love watching fight, and that's exactly what I bring to the table. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Half the Battle.
All right, Paolo, now let us know where we can find you on social media, where we can find your writing, your podcast, anything else you got to shout out or give a thank you. Now's your time.
Yeah, you can find me at GoPaoloMMA, like it says down there. You can find my writing at Today's Knockout, at Sportsnet, and our podcast, our new podcast at MMA Side Dish. We're just currently taking a break for this week because Emma's really swamped with work. I've got a lot of work coming up too. And we recently just put up Vendetta Fighter. At Vendetta Fighter is back up, guys. So come check us out and give us a follow.
Absolutely. Now you can find me on Twitter at NickUFC. Check out my website, mmajr.co. My writing, bloodyelbow.com, mmasucker.com. Oh, what else? My podcast, MMA Junior Radio, hosted each and every week with Andrew the Clown Kid Lawrence. This past weekend, we had UFC veteran Tateki Matsuda on the show, who fights on Friday at Legacy FC 51. And we had MMA journalist and podcast host James Lynch, a good friend of all of ours, of course. He came on to preview UFC Fight Night 82, talk Benson Henderson, which we didn't talk about here, but talk that, and talk about covering Pascal versus Kovalev, his first boxing event, which was this past weekend. And this was my third time previewing this card. I feel by now I'm just reiterating exactly what I was saying yesterday and earlier today. But yeah, with that, thanks for watching. As always, really appreciate it, and enjoy the fights.